Today, I want to talk to you guys about what to do when you feel a very strong emotion and ways to approach these emotions. First off, I want to make it clear, do not trust this emotion. If you make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, you are bound to be miserable because that emotion is so fleeting, so temporary. Not even a not even a drop of water in the ocean of your life, and you make a permanent decision based off it that you can never take back, that you will be known for. And when I say you will be known for it, I'm not talking about people knowing you for it. You will know yourself for it. There will be no denying that you're the type of person that does blank because you've done blank. Even if it was just a temporary emotion, even if you regret it, you are still a person who's done blank, and you have to live with that the rest of your life. So do not trust emotions, at least not at face value. Don't just jump on it and ride it off the waterfall. Emotions are not to be trusted. So when you feel a very strong one, don't just act upon it, but also don't push it away. Observe it. A lot of people, I think, believe that, the Stoics or just the right thing in general to do is to bury emotions, is to push them to the side, is to not inquire in them, is to not, you know, think about them or why they're arising. But that's not what you do either. Because if you bury that emotion, it never truly leaves. And this is why some people, or even yourself, will find that you explode out of nowhere. You don't really get angry a lot, and you've tolerated so much. You've tolerated instances where, 99% of the population would have lost their temper or, would have said something rude, but you've tolerated it. And then one day, the most, minuscule, minute thing happens and you blow up. And it's something that 99% of the population wouldn't have lost their temper on. And you don't understand. You're a person who's good at not losing their temper. But then this random situation happens and, there goes all that. You lose your temper at the smallest thing. And that's because that situation was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And you have so much on that camel's back that you've just buried down and you've put on it. And you've never really dealt with it. And dealing with it doesn't mean you get mad. It doesn't mean you lose your temper. It doesn't mean you let the emotion override you. It just means that you look into it, that you let it happen inside, and you question it. If you feel very, very angry, ask yourself why. Look into it. And you can, a lot of times, I believe, work yourself through it. And when a emotion is weighing heavy on your mind, the worst thing I believe you can do is try to numb it, either with drugs, alcohol, even like video games, or, other people's company, whatever it is that you seek when you're in a bad place. I disagree with it. I think you should deal with it right then and there because there's a reason it's come up. There's a reason you feel that way. And if you want to not feel that way in the future, or at least understand why you feel that way next time it arises, you have to look into it. You have to look into it deeply. And I think for a long time, I would feel strong emotions and I would try to push them away with, a lot of things. But more as of late, I'd feel something and I wouldn't let myself, take an hour and contemplate it, journal about it, and really inquire into it. I'd be like, I don't have time for this. I need to read because, I like reading and I like, gaining knowledge. Um, so then I'd read. But then I noticed that I would I would have the worst time reading. I wouldn't remember what I was reading. My brain would constantly be slipping in and out of the book and into the emotion I'm feeling. And at the end of it, I haven't dealt with anything. I haven't dealt with the book and what I just read, and I haven't dealt with the emotion I'm feeling and what I've been going through. And this is a bad situation. And I think when you feel something very strongly, it's telling you something. It's telling you something about yourself, about your nature, and you would do good to inquire into it and think deeply about it and figure out why. For instance, if you're at work and you get a job that you don't want to do and you don't think you should be doing it, you think there's other people who should be, quote unquote paying their dues because maybe it's a crappy job, and you think there's other people who should be doing what you're doing and you should be doing what other people are doing. And you're really upset. And you just push this emotion to the side. And you don't blow up on anybody. You're not you're not visibly distressed or anything, but inside you're complaining, you're annoyed, and you don't understand. But you keep pushing it to the side and not really dealing with it. And in this situation, this is how I mean you should deal with the situation. You look into that. You say, okay, why did my boss give this to me? Let's try to see things from his perspective. And you can say, okay, well, this person who maybe should have to be paying their dues, they hurt themselves yesterday. So they need to be taken a little bit easier today. They can't be going and doing the thing you're about to do because it does take some physical exertion and it does take some, agility, and they're injured right now. Not severely, but enough where it's like, yeah, I don't want him to go do that. And you're like, okay, fair enough. I see the logic behind that. And then you're like, well, what about this person? And you're like, well, they are better than you. So they would be better suited on that job because that's more experience would come in handy on that job. And you're like, okay, that's fair. And then you're like, okay, and I have done this before, so I know kind of what's going on. And then you can kind of, put yourself in your boss's shoes and say, okay, I see the logic. Maybe it's not what I want to do. Maybe I wish I was doing something else, but I see his logic. If I was in his shoes with the same lineup of people, I would probably put me on this too. And then, that takes, in real time, probably like 5-10 minutes. And you've worked through your emotion. You've now seen the perspective from your boss's situation, and you now agree. And you now see why. And now you're no longer complaining, harboring ill will, and you're not stuffing down an emotion. You've completely dealt with the emotion. And now you're actually in agreement. You say, okay, I understand. That's so powerful. But if you feel that emotion and you reach for your phone and you just go on Instagram, or you start texting somebody about how you hate your job and da 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 da, or you just go to one of your coworkers and start gossiping about, the person who's injured and how, they're stupid for getting injured and now you got to do the work that they should be doing. That doesn't help. That destroys your own soul. That destroys you. And don't feel ashamed, or don't feel bad about needing time to contemplate these things and inquire into them. There's nothing to feel bad about. There's nothing wrong with inquiring into your emotions and understanding why you feel a certain way. And not being so quick to assent to your emotions, because they should not be trusted, at least not at face value. And to go back onto the subject of, looking deeply into things and not just pushing things to the side. When there's a decision to be made, don't push it to the side. Alex Hormozy says, the heaviest things in life aren't gold or silver, but unmade decisions. And ever since I heard that, it stuck with me because I'm very bad at making decisions. I'm very wishy-washy. I'm the type of person who doesn't want to make the decision to the last second in case something better arises, in case new factors come into the equation. I don't want to be stuck to something because I'm also a type of person who tries to keep his word. And if he says he's going to do something, tries to do it and tries to, be there and tries to keep his word. So I don't like to just, somebody asks me something like, hey, do you want to do this? And then just say yes, because then if I don't, I feel bad. And yeah. um, but you also need to, like, you don't, when someone asks you to do something, I think Matthew McConaughey said to be a quick no and a long yes. So if someone asks you to do something and you're not really sure, either tell them no or tell them, give me some time to think about that. And when you say give me some time to think about it, actually think about it. Don't 2 minutes later be off in another project. Actually sit down and think about it. Think about what you want to do. Think about if this is something that you want to give your life to, because your life is made up of time, and your time is what you're going to be giving to this person or this endeavor. So ask yourself, is this something I really want to give my time to? And if the answer is yes, then say yes. And if the answer is no, then say no. You have no obligations to anybody. And this is your life. This is your one life. You have no obligations. But the main point I'm trying to make is actually sit down and think about if you want to do that or not, and try to decide as fast as possible, and bring in all the information you have and lay it out in front of you and decide. Because unmade decisions will eat away at you, and they will waste hours of your time, and you'll go back and forth, and you'll want to do it, then you won't want to do it. It's better to take 30 minutes and make a decision than to take, 15-minute blocks, 10 times a day out of your day for 2 weeks trying to decide whether this is what you want to do or not. And then, one day you want to, the next day you don't. And then for 2 days you decide that you should. And then for 3 days you decide that you don't. And then out of nowhere, the day comes where you have to make the decision and you have no idea. You've wasted hours and you don't even know what it is you want to do. So it's valuable to set a block of time aside and actually inquire and actually think about what it is you want to do. And then stick with it unless new information arises. But typically, I don't think changing information, like not life changing, but situation changing information arises. Maybe minimal things change, but that shouldn't change your whole outlook on the situation normally. So just make the decision and stick with the decision. You'll save so much time and so much worrying, and it'll benefit you emotionally in the long run. And the main point of this video is just to really emphasize the point of inquiring into things, inquiring into your emotions, inquiring into decisions, inquiring into the things people tell you. Don't be dogmatic. Trust yourself. Don't just do something because everyone else is doing it. Beware of the herd. The herd like mentality is dangerous, contagious. People are smart, persons are stupid. And as an individual, you are a genius. But put 30 people around you, and one of them, the leader, being ignorant, you will all become ignorant. So don't be dogmatic. Trust yourself. Inquire into things for yourself. Don't be a follower. The world does not need more followers. It needs more people questioning things and more people looking into things. People who take things as truth at face value are dangerous. They're easily manipulatable, and especially in this day and age, dangerous. It's so easy for misinformation to be spread like wildfire. And for people who don't look into anything, it's, a click away from just being to millions of people. And, you know, there's so many people who, you know, Douglas Murray said something one time about about COVID, and someone asked him, I think, why he wasn't speaking on it, and he said, that he was going to do something remarkable that no one does, and he said he's not going to have an opinion about things he does not know about. And how beautiful that is. Everyone today believes they need to have an opinion on every topic. You know, like, do you need to wear a mask or not? Go. And then whatever your answer is, you're put in this category that pairs you with Hitler or pairs you with, you know, um, Karl Marx. It's like you're two extremes. It's like, no, I just looked at studies and I formulated my opinion. And I didn't take this person's word and I didn't take that person's word. I formulated my own opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're a person who hears someone gives their stance on a situation and you put them in a category, nowadays obviously it's like two different categories. It's like you're either a Nazi or you're a Marxist, and both people who throw people into these categories are wrong. You can't just categorize somebody like that so easily. You need to know an awful lot about somebody before you can make an accurate decision or an accurate evaluation of them. You need to know an awful lot. That's why you need to be slow to judge. The same rule you measure with will be measured against you, as Matthew says. Well, Jesus says it, but says it in Matthew. My guess is Matthew 12. I don't know. That was just a guess, so don't hold me to that. Yeah, don't throw people in categories and formulate your own opinions. Trust yourself. Don't be a follower. Don't give in to the herd mentality. It's very dangerous. And just because everyone else is doing something, don't do it. Because if you do something, you do something, and your gut tells you to do something over here, but you decide to follow the herd. If the herd goes south, you're going to be so quick to point blame and to point fingers and say, "Well, I trusted him," and that is not right. That is not virtuous, and you will not become a person you like doing that. But if you follow what you believe and it goes south, then you can take the blame and you can say, "I was wrong. I was wrong." And that's so much easier. It's so hard to take the blame when you don't trust yourself. And sometimes you're in a situation where you're not the smartest. Most of the time, all the time, I'm in the situation where I'm not the smartest person, and I have to make a decision whether to trust somebody else or to trust myself. And sometimes the decision is to trust another because they're more educated, they have more credentials, and they're just better than me at whatever we're doing in every sense of it. And then in those situations, when it goes south, you have to own it and say, I didn't do what I would have done, but I trusted myself to trust this person. And for that reason, I will sink with the ship because I trusted myself. But when you don't inquire and you blindly trust other people, that's when the finger is so quick to point. And that is so disgraceful to the soul. The soul hates that. The soul, it truly hates that. And you'll destroy yourself by doing that. So do me a favor. Don't be a follower. Inquire into things for yourself. Trust yourself. And, trust but verify. There's nothing wrong with trusting people. There's nothing wrong with believing in the good in human nature. Because, as I believe, no soul is willingly deprived of the truth. No soul. Everyone believes they're right, and everyone believes they're doing what is best for themselves. That's human nature, to do what is best for oneself. And it's okay. I think you should trust people. It's like innocent till proven guilty. That's an amazing thing that the court has. And that's how you should be with other people too. If someone says something, I just read a quote by Aristotle, and it was, the mark of a truly educated person is to be able to hold a belief without accepting it. And to me, that means to be able to hold a perspective, someone else's perspective, but not accept it. Don't take it as truth. Take it as what they truly believe and see it from their position, and then get to a position where you can say, okay, I see why they believe this. I don't think, they're not willingly deprived of the truth. I don't believe them. I don't agree with them, but I see why they believe this. I see that they are not lying. I see that they're being truthful, and I can see how they believe this. But I can also see how I don't believe that, and I can also see how I think they're wrong, and I'm going to trust myself. That's the mark of a truly educated person, Aristotle says. And I think Aristotle's a pretty good person to listen to on what makes an educated person. Seeing things from other people's perspective is a superpower. I think Henry Ford also says that, something along those lines. But being able to hold two views at once is a superpower. In one hand, your view that you believe in, and in the other hand, the other person's view and what they believe in, and be able to put it on the scales and weigh them out, and not accept this other person's truth, but believe that there's a chance it's right, and to actually look into it, and to actually give it value, not just to blindly accept what you think. Don't be dogmatic even in what you believe. Inquire into what you believe. You should like when you get questioned on what you believe. It keeps you honest and keeps you on your toes. People who get uptight about getting questioned on their beliefs, it's because they never really thought about it. They hold it blindly, and they hold it so softly. If anyone questions it, it slips from their hands and they're mad because their whole world is flipped upside down. Don't be like that. Inquire into all things: what you believe, what others believe, your emotions. Everything deserves inquiring, especially yourself.